Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing great out there this morning, having a wonderful start to your day, and a great week out there so far as we get a little bit closer to that weekend. Here to bring the latest information that we have on Hurricane Ernesto out here in the Southwest Atlantic. Ernesto has been gradually strengthening over the last 24 to 48 hours. There's been no rapid intensification as of right now. That could change potentially over the next 24 to 48 hours. We just got to watch this thing and how the structure can improve. Very large hurricane, I would say. And I think it's just been having a little bit of a hard time getting itself together. But that could change, like I said, over the next couple of days. So we'll give you the latest information, the latest advisory info from the National Hurricane Center. We'll really zoom into that track that's projected by the National Hurricane Center. We'll talk about all model guidance. We'll really spend some time on some of these hurricane models that kind of give us a really close-in look at like Bermuda, portions of like Newfoundland. The good news for like Nova Scotia is this looks like it has trended to your east, but we don't have the best news still for areas of Newfoundland. So we'll speak on that. We'll break all that down as some model guidance in kind of the medium term, which I would say is Atlantic Canada, and the impacts coming your way has trended a little bit further east over the last 24 hours. So we'll talk about all the information we have. We're not going to spend any time on steering currents or the environment that supports strengthening. We've done that enough. We really just need to focus on the track and impacts and things like that. And after we do all that, of course, we'll break down what's going to happen weather-wise across the entire lower 48 for today. Definitely take advantage of those timestamps, guys. Are there to help you guys out to just jump ahead to certain portions of the video that you want to pay attention to. Like I've mentioned many times before, I understand not everybody's got 30, 45 minutes to listen to a guy chatter about the weather. So definitely utilize those. My cat is already meowing on the other side of the door, so I might have to get up in the middle of the video, let my cat in. Yeah, this is your first time viewing. Of course, you're like, dude, what is going on here? But anyways, if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. I'm still a little under the weather, guys, so I might struggle a little bit in this video. I'm improving, but it's just been kind of a long week with just being, it feels like I've just been dealing with allergies more so than just being full-fledged sick. But anyways, we'll muscle our way through this. But this is Hurricane Ernesto, pretty large storm. It actually looks like it's expanding a little bit, getting a little bit larger. But this system, I would say, has been having a little bit of a, like I said just a couple minutes ago, a little bit of a difficult time getting its full-fledged structure together. And I just really think it's just because this has been such a large tropical system since it was just a tropical wave. And it's still a very large hurricane. But, of course, Bermuda is this speck right here, already dealing with some morning showers and storms this morning that doesn't really have anything to do with Ernesto. It's actually this cold front that you can see pretty well on satellite here. It's draping across this region right here. And this is actually funneling in some nice cooler temperatures across like the Carolinas and the Mid-Atlantic, for example. My house is sitting at 68 degrees here in central South Carolina. First time below 70 degrees since, I think, early July, so it's pretty nice. But this same air mass and cold front that's cooling you guys down the southeast is actually going to impact the track and maybe even the intensity of Ernesto. And as this system continues to strengthen and sort of move this way, I think it's going to encounter a little bit of westerly shear because of this frontal boundary and the flow that kind of goes along it. So this system actually has the potential to weaken a little bit as it gets really close to Bermuda, then maybe intensify again once it, potentially gets on up here right before it encounters cooler sea surface temperatures, which it will then weaken again. So we got a weird next few days of Ernesto, but this is the system right now. It's a Category 1 hurricane as of around 6:30 a.m., I will say. So let's continue to move here. The latest info that we have, this is, I believe, was a 979 millibar, 85 mile per hour hurricane. So there it is, 85 miles per hour Ernesto. And Bermuda is right here, which now has hurricane warnings. They were upgraded from watches to warnings a few hours ago. But expected to intensify into a Category 2 100 mile per hour hurricane sometime this afternoon. So this it's going to undergo probably some at least moderate intensification, maybe even a period of rapid intensification. Forecast to become a high-end Category 2 110 mile per hour hurricane by 2 a.m. Tonight, Friday morning. And then by the time we get into tomorrow afternoon, it's still forecast to become a major hurricane, 115 mile per hour, Category 3 major hurricane. Then it's forecast to weaken right when it gets close to Bermuda, which is right here, weaken back into a Category 2 hurricane. And then right when it's just, I would say, just west, maybe the center of the storm, which I will say some model guidance still has the center of this storm going just east of Bermuda, but we'll talk about that right now. But has the actual center of this storm, I would say the center of the cone going just west of Bermuda as a pretty strong Category 2 hurricane. Now, the impacts to Bermuda is going to vary greatly. It just depends on how close the eye gets. Now, from what we're seeing, it looks like the eastern side of the storm could be the worst side of the storm. So, of course, if it takes more of the west path, just west of Bermuda, that means you guys would get hit by the eastern side of the storm. So the closer the actual center of the storm is, the closer that actual eye wall will get to Bermuda, which, if you don't know, that's where the worst impacts are, the highest winds, strongest winds in a hurricane. But we will zoom this back out. There's some model guidance that does show this re-intensifying north of Bermuda before it does enter a pretty distinct cutoff with sea surface temperatures, and then it dramatically will probably weaken because it has no real warm waters of the Atlantic to really continue to thrive off of, but still could be a powerful Category 2, 105 mile per hour hurricane by later this weekend, 2 a.m. Sunday, and then it starts to race off to the northeast, and still, 2 a.m. Still 2 a.m. Monday, guys, is a 105 mile per hour Category 2 hurricane. Then from right here, 2 a.m. Monday to 2 a.m. Tuesday, that's 24 hours. Look how much water this covers. It's a 75 mile per hour post-tropical cyclone that will lose its tropical characteristics once it gets this far north. And, 60-70% of Newfoundland is in this cone, and I would really watch out for like St. John, southeast Newfoundland. We will talk more about you guys here in a second, but very small section of what is that, Cape Breton Island is still in the cone, but it really looks like most of this model guidance has shifted to the east. So that's good news for you guys, but we still need to watch this for obviously Bermuda and Newfoundland. So here's the traditional look from the National Hurricane Center. Like I've mentioned, 85 mile per hour hurricane moving north at 13 miles per hour. So it's moving due north now. Hurricane warnings up for Bermuda. If you look right here, and the yellowish orange color, that is where tropical storm force winds extend outward from the center. So if you notice, it's kind of east heavy right here, but there's still, an extension of tropical storm force winds well away from the center, even on the west side of the storm. But the east side of the storm certainly looks like it extends further out. And if you look really closely, it's hard to tell, but right beside this X, really close to it, that is where hurricane force winds extend outward. So it's much smaller, confined to that actual eye wall right now. Of course, when this intensifies, hurricane force winds will expand yeah, guys, I'm struggling. Sorry. Will expand a little bit further outward. If you're a first-time viewer, you're watching and you're like, dude, this guy does not have his act together. Like I said, just a little bit under the weather. This is not going to be the most smooth video that I've had, that's for sure. But I think it's important to get this out for my friends here in Bermuda and Atlantic Canada, that's for sure. So, speaking of Canada, this is the Environment Canada, the Canadian Hurricane Center. Of course, you guys go by kilometers per hour, not miles per hour like here in the U.S., or knots, depending on where you live. So it's saying this is going to be a 120 kilometer per hour storm by the time that it's really close to Newfoundland, if not the center of the storm, going right over portions of like southeastern Newfoundland. But here's a different way to look at it. I know that's probably pretty small. Maybe I can make this a little bit bigger for you folks in Canada. But there it is. There's the actual cone from, it's the same cone for the National Hurricane Center, guys. It just shows kilometers per hour instead. So if we look at the latest model guidance, now we're not going to really view it from the Caribbean or anything anymore. We're going to kind of look at the eastern U.S. and then the western North Atlantic, if you will. There is that little speck right here. That is Bermuda, where I got my cursor. We'll start this Friday morning. It says it's going to be a 967 millibar low hurricane. It's probably a mid-grade category 2. Stays about the same strength. Latest GFS has this dipping south of Bermuda Friday evening, tomorrow evening, and actually turning abruptly back north again. And if something like this was to happen, this would almost bring the center of the storm tomorrow night and Saturday morning right over Bermuda as a high-end category 2 hurricane. And then it would kind of move north-northeast and continue to kind of wobble back and forth. Maybe has a chance to intensify. And then we'll have to jump this to Atlantic Canada here. And here it comes, GFS. Look at that little bit of snow showing up. You can tell the seasons are beginning to make a shift from summer to fall way up here in Canada. Not down here in the U.S. necessarily, but up here in Canada. But we get into about midday Monday, guys. Here is this is still a strong low pressure. Remember, when these things lose their tropical characteristics, become post-tropical, the wind field really expands outward. So the impacts, wind-wise, can really, really get away from the center. We'll get well away from the center. So we get into Monday. This thing's racing at this point and could potentially make an actual landfall somewhere in, I'm not sure if y'all say the Avalon Peninsula or the Avalon Peninsula. I'm sure you fine folks in Canada will correct me one way or the other. But this potentially, which is pretty much southeastern Newfoundland, could make an actual landfall. So I would say conditions are going to go downhill fast as this is quickly approaching from the south and southwest Monday. And this could bring a nasty storm system that will hit you guys pretty hard, pack a big punch, but it'll move in and move out fast. But this could hit St. John's really hard, which is, of course, a higher populated community and city in southeast sections of Newfoundland. And then this will race in, and then this will race out. Very quick moving system like most of them are when they get to this portion of the world up here. They start to pick up a lot of forward momentum, and they race through. But this could be a very quick-hitting windstorm. Probably because it's so fast. Not a ton of rain, but a quick-hitting windstorm for you guys late Monday into Tuesday. Latest Euro sticks to more so the National Hurricane Center forecast. Gets this, I would say, gets this west of Bermuda, the actual center of the storm. There's Bermuda right here. Here's the actual hurricane, obviously, here as a Category 2 hurricane. A lot of these global models don't really get this. If you're looking at millibars, really ever get this to Category 3 status. We'll have to see what happens today. I think today will be a big indicator of truly how strong this hurricane gets. If it doesn't gain a lot of strength today, I don't think it's going to make it to major status. But this would get the eyewall dangerously close to Bermuda. I would say the goal here in Bermuda is to not let this eyewall get to you guys. If you can just get the outer eyewall, just the outer bands, then you guys will be just fine. You'll be just fine regardless. You guys will get through this, but you don't want to get in this eyewall. And you don't want this thing to slow down right here either, kind of like the Euro is doing. But it does pick up some speed. It begins to strengthen again. The Euro shows that scenario I mentioned where it could weaken a little bit around Bermuda. Not because of land interaction or anything. The small community of Bermuda is not going to bother this hurricane. It's because of the wind shear off the frontal boundary that's draped off the off the coast of the eastern U.S. into the North Atlantic right now. But once that boundary weakens, you've got this big storm system that's probably going to come through this weekend with a big trough. You see all this rain over the eastern U.S. This is going to move in, and then this is what's going to kind of boot this one way or the other. And it looks like this thing's heading right towards Nova Scotia. And we still need to watch out. I'm not saying, Nova Scotia needs to completely ignore this storm. Please don't take that away from what I'm saying. I'm just saying it looks like guidance has shifted certainly further east. Now, I will say the Euro is a lot closer to like eastern Nova Scotia, Cape Breton Island. In fact, close enough to bring probably some gusty wind and some rain. And but the Euro is just a little bit further west and northwest, and actually does make that technical landfall late Monday night into Tuesday, pretty much right over the Avalon Peninsula. I'm just going to stick with Avalon. But St. John's would see a lot of impact from this, also just like with the GFS, and then this races off. So I would say Monday into Tuesday is the window to watch up here in Newfoundland. Now, we continue to move forward here, and we look at some of these hurricane models. The first thing we'll look at is the H-Wharf model, and we'll start this for tomorrow morning. Initializing is a 966 millibar hurricane. Right now it's around 979, so this would make it a pretty powerful Category 2 hurricane. Now, one thing you'll notice with this tomorrow, the east side of the system looks to be the worst. Like, you see this right into here. That is a nasty eastern eye wall of this hurricane. Of course, you got, the flow going like this around this system, and this is packing a punch. Now, the worry is that's going to go right over Bermuda. So you keep this going here. Bermuda's going to show up right here. Here it is, and this is getting into Friday evening. We get into Friday night. But look how that western side of the storm really begins to strengthen too. But one thing I'll notice here is that the storm begins to weaken somewhat right when it gets close to Bermuda. Looks like the millibar actually goes up, which tells us it's weakening. But this gets close. The actual center of circulation is just, not even 100 miles, not even close to 100 miles just west of you guys. This would still slam you guys with the with the inner eye wall, which is the most dangerous portion of these hurricanes wind-wise. This would actually push a lot of water up into Bermuda. I don't think storm surge will be a huge deal because of just the way Bermuda is and geographical features and things like that. But this would make a very, very close pass to you guys. And then you keep this going, and look how it re-intensifies. That millibar drops, and then it goes back up. And then you can tell how this system certainly gets a lot of dry air wrapped into the southwest and southern side of the system. And then, if you're wondering what this is Newfoundland. Look, as we are getting, as we're getting into like late Monday night, nasty banding feature starting to slam the southern coastline of Newfoundland, and this would bring some nasty impacts as far out as this model run goes, unfortunately. But you can tell that this is going to go on and make a landfall most likely right into southeast Newfoundland, the Avalon Peninsula, St. John's would see a lot of impacts. There's a lot of communities that I'm not going to, was that Fairyland? That's easy enough. This would, probably push some water up into the, what's that, Placentia Bay? Probably push a lot of water temporarily up into that area. But certainly would bring impacts, guys, that's for sure. And then we, flip back and look at the HFA model. This initializes this is a even stronger hurricane tomorrow morning, and we keep this going. We are getting into Saturday morning. Now, the actual center of the storm is a little bit further west than the H-Wharf model. So it would just hit Bermuda with some nasty outer bands, still bring some heavy impacts. But the actual core of the worst hurricane impacts would be well to your west. And you guys would just get hit by some intense outer bands, certainly impacts, and certainly brief hurricane force conditions. But I don't think it would be a devastating blow to Bermuda, just very close pass. Now we keep this going, and we take it into Sunday, we take it into Monday morning, and then we are starting to get, and here it is, starting to get into Monday evening. I would say the HFA model is a little bit quicker with Ernesto. And same thing, it looks like it's bringing a lot of impacts all the way up against, this would bring a lot of impacts to the St. Pierre area and those islands out there. The Bermuda Peninsula, this would hit you guys pretty hard. But I would say the worst impacts would obviously still be the Avalon Peninsula. And, St. John, just southeast Newfoundland would get hit very hard by this. But it would just be a very quick blow. But this could bring some very strong winds for a several-hour period. So it's just something we need to watch. If we're looking at winds, of course, this is going to show up in knots. But, if we're looking at, for example, this is the H-Wharf model, I believe. The H-Wharf model, this would bring sometime Saturday afternoon. This would bring some pretty intense winds into Bermuda as the actual eye wall goes right over you guys. Hurricane force conditions. This would bring 65 to 80 knot winds into the area, which is 75 to 85 mile per hour winds right over Bermuda. But watch as it goes, and this will be Saturday afternoon. Watch as it gets north. It begins to intensify. The wind field begins to actually strengthen again. and then that wind field expands, and then here comes these strong winds that are coming up into southeast Newfoundland at this point. This would bring some pretty gusty winds. And kind of to take another look at this, this is in miles per hour. We'll back this up here. And this is actually the HFA model, so another representation of an example of what could happen here. And, you know, if this model is right, this could still bring some, I mean, guys, this could still bring hurricane force winds. I mean, maybe 85 to 100 mile per hour wind gusts possible still into Bermuda, even with the HFA model that has a center of the storm certainly positioned much more further west. But you go on and take this up to my friends in Newfoundland, and we'll actually have to go to kilometers per hour here, because I know you guys measure it differently up here, and I'm not too familiar with that, so I just have to kind of wing this and explain things where I guess you guys would probably understand a little bit more. But this would bring, and we'll look at gust here, this would bring the potential, come on, let's get it right here, right here. This will bring the potential for some very strong wind gusts right into Newfoundland. Like, for example, on this particular one of the HFA model, you got over 115 kilometer per hour wind gusts potentially getting you guys being affected by well over 100 kilometer per hour wind gusts right into southeast areas of Newfoundland. And you keep this going. I mean, St. John at this point, you know, this would be late to Monday, is getting hit by 100 kilometer per hour wind. So a mile per hour, so I'm actually interested to see how fast. So yeah, I mean, that's over tropical storm force wind gust. And look right out here at the most southeast point of Newfoundland here. You guys are getting hit by well over hurricane force winds. So, you know, you go back and look at kilometer per hour, 127 kilometer per hour wind gust. Way, what is that? Cape Race, I believe is what it's called. So certainly the far southeastern sections of Newfoundland would see the heaviest impacts if models continue to look like this for sure. So if we're actually looking at impacts for the National Hurricane Center, here we go. You know, if you live in this area, and which is only Bermuda in the fish, Bermuda, you guys have over a 90% chance to see tropical storm force wind gusts, 40 mile per hour wind gusts or higher. It's already been extended all the way up into Newfoundland. You know, the peninsula out here, St. John's, you guys have now pretty much a 30 to 50% chance to see 40 mile per hour winds or higher. And you even look at hurricane force winds now. If this would update for us. There we go. So the chances to see hurricane force wind gust, was a 74 miles per hour or higher winds, you know, is now up to a 50 to 60% chance in Bermuda. So it's looking likely at this point. Now the timeline of these winds, I'll let you guys look at this, you know, expecting probably by tomorrow morning in Bermuda, and could get some tropical storm force wind gusts probably all the way into the southern coastline, the coastline sections of Nova Scotia, Cape Breton Island. Even Prince Edward Island could get some gusty winds, but almost the entire area of Newfoundland has a chance to see tropical storm force wind gusts, at least for a period. Not consistently, but just wind gusts. So hope you guys are getting ready for this. We'll continue to fine tune these details as we get a little bit closer. But what's happened here in the homeland, here in the U.S., we got a lot of rain making its way through the Midwest right now, even the plains, some rain up here in the north central U.S. We're getting some wraparound from this low pressure up here in Canada. This is actually going to funnel in some showers and storms throughout the day here in New England. Got a little bit of rain that's falling in Oregon. We can use it there. Outside of that, that's about it. Watches, warnings, and advisories. Heat advisories in the orange. Excessive heat warnings in the purple. It's going to get very hot in the southern Mississippi Valley, the Delta region today. Very hot down in the South Florida too. Heat advisories down there. Then we got red flag warnings right now, where there is some rain falling in Oregon, so that's good. So that's that. And then we look at the excessive rainfall outlook. In the yellow, that is where we have at least a 15% chance of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance within 25 miles in a given location. So we could see a little bit of too much rain in this area today, maybe some flash flooding, so let's be aware of that. And then the Storm Prediction Center, a very large slight risk stretching from Chicago almost all the way to Tulsa. There is a very small section of northeastern Oklahoma, Kansas City included this, St. Louis, Springfield, Peoria, both Springfields in Illinois and Missouri, and does extend all the way into a very small section of Kentucky and the far western counties in Indiana. There is a marginal risk up here in New England too for some marginal hail. Tornado risk today, there's a 2% risk in this green area. Wind threat, yellow area, 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. In the hail threat, there's a 15% risk in the yellow area of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. The southeast today could get some showers and storms along the Georgia and northeast Florida coastline, and then we'll just have an opportunity for isolated scattered showers and storms throughout Florida today with just some flow moving over the area. And of course, as always, a very juiced up atmosphere this time of the year. And then we'll get some downpours across southeast Louisiana. We'll continue to move this forward here, and we get into tonight. We'll have some energy moving out the Midwest. It'll try to ooze down to the Mid-South and the Ohio Valley tomorrow morning. So, if you live in the Boot Hill, Missouri, throughout Kentucky, even up to Evansville, down to Nashville, could wake up to some showers and storms tomorrow to kickstart your Friday morning. But we'll continue to move up to the Northeast. If you live in the Northeast today, don't let these storms catch you by surprise, especially if you live in southwestern Maine, New Hampshire, down to even Boston, like eastern Mass. These storms could catch you by surprise if you're not expecting them. Storms could trail off all the way down to southern New England, Connecticut, Rhode Island. Heck, maybe make it all the way down to Long Island by the time we get into late tonight. But these storms could produce some hail. There's a lot of cold air aloft with some cooler air in place at the surface and, in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So weird kind of extreme north to south flow moving across southern New England today. So if you live in these states, I'm telling you that I just mentioned, these storms could pack a punch. A lot of hail could fall from them today. But we get into tomorrow morning, we got some energy moving in from the west, waking up to kind of a rainy start in Ohio, depending on where you live. Maybe the same for Kentucky, western Virginia, and then West Virginia could have some showers you're waking up to tomorrow morning. South central U.S., most of the energy will flow to the north of you guys, but we are going to have some pop-up activity in Oklahoma. I think I've mentioned Louisiana already, southeast Louisiana. Some energy could flow out of southwest Mississippi into southeast Louisiana. Some scattered storms and pop-up showers are possible in central Oklahoma. Look at those storms in the southern half of Missouri late tonight. They could produce a tornado or two. They could produce some large hail and some gusty winds. And we just got to see what happens after that. But temperatures today will be absolutely brutal. Well over 100 again in Dallas. I think what makes it worse today is the heat index. That's what's going to be absolutely awful today. Look at this. 115 in the Delta region. 110 to 115 in southeast Louisiana. Yeah, heat indices are going to be well over 100 for all these areas right here. And you see in kind of the whitish pink color. It's going to be a brutally hot day, which it's been pretty hot the last couple of days. So up here in the north central U.S., a pretty active day of weather expected. We got this spinning cyclone up here, land cyclone, and we're going to get a lot of shower activity across eastern sections of North Dakota throughout the day. Maybe even some storms are capable of producing some hail up here in the northern half of Minnesota. Just some widespread rain will continue to move across Michigan into the across Wisconsin, into the UP of Michigan, into lower Michigan. And then we got to watch for any storms that develop from, even like, look at these storms up here in western Wisconsin. Got to watch those. But it's really the ones down here that develop like in southeastern sections of Iowa. These right here could produce some tornadoes. And you keep this going, a lot of energy flowing into Illinois. Look at all that energy in southern Illinois. In fact, we're just going to go on and dip down here. And look at these storms. And I'm telling you, if you live in southeastern sections of Iowa, if you get hit by one of these storms, you're going to know it. So just be aware of this. This is around 8 to 9 p.m. tonight. They are capable of producing tornadoes. These are capable down here in Missouri and producing some gusty winds, some hail. And then this energy, like Peoria, could get hit hard around midnight tonight, maybe just before. We could get some storms in St. Louis, even though you're not really seeing them over top of St. Louis. You still could get them there. And then could get some storms all the way up into like Chicago in the wee hours of the morning. And you just got to continue to watch all this energy as it trails off to the east and southeast. But certainly a risk of some tornadoes today. You know, you look at the updraft Felicity swath with these storms, and it does show, you know, the potential for some rotating updrafts in southeastern Iowa, western Illinois. So some of these will be rotating. It's just, hey, you know, are they going to produce a tornado? So just be aware of that today in these areas, and some strong gusty winds. And we could get a lot of rain too if we actually look at how much rain could fall over the next 24 hours. I mean, another few inches of rain is possible in the Midwest, basically. So be aware of that. Out west, it's quieter weather today. We're not seeing much of a flow out here to get these showers and storms going like the last several days. But some showers and maybe even some storms could get going up here in Idaho today. Western Montana, especially some showers. A little bit of shower activity in Colorado, northeast Colorado possible. But outside of that, guys, it's a pretty quiet weather day out west. Temperatures, rain, cooled air up here in the north central U.S. But it's going to get warm all the way into the UP of Michigan. With temperatures in the 80s, especially the eastern UP of Michigan. Even up here in Quebec, Ontario, 70s and 80s. So a nice warm day. And we got, you know, a frontal boundary that's draping all the way across into the Carolinas. It'll keep your temperatures a little cool today. But the further west you get in the deep south, the hotter it gets. You'll get into the 80s and 90s quick. You know, it'll be cooler today in like Charlotte to Columbia than it will be Atlanta, for example. Of course, we've already spoke how hot it's going to be in the south central U.S. And out west, it continues just to be cooler. No intense heat really at all. That's all I got, guys. Sorry for the struggle with the video. It's been a pesky, allergy, kind of sick week this week. That's why I kind of laid off the evening videos, just to give myself a rest. My wife has been very tired from school. She's had a very good first few days of school teaching, but it is absolutely kicking her rear end as far as just being tired. So just we've just been working together. We've been going to sleep as a family very early, like 7:30 early. And just been a very tiring week, just as we adjust with the back to school. Jenna starting as a school teacher, of course the weather being busy, and just other commitments. I'm almost kind of happy that soccer has not started up quite yet, but it's definitely been it's been busy, but it's just getting started. That's how I am. I feel like I work better when things are just going full speed ahead. So thank you for the prayers for that, asking for prayers, just that we can have our energy up. But of course, when you get home in the evenings and your energy's lacking, then, you know, you just want to have the energy still there in the evening time to spend on other things that are important too, like your children and like each other. So that's all I got. God bless all y'all. You guys stay safe out there, and I'll have you another update whenever we do. God bless.